Hello, and welcome to Meet the Candidates. I'm Bill Villanova, and with me I have the Village of Mamaroneck Mayor, Norm Rosenblum, and the Village of Mamaroneck Deputy Mayor, Lou Santoro. As always, we always have a lot to discuss, and we're going to start just to hear a little bit from the candidates. Lou.
Good evening, Bill. Thanks again for coming tonight. As you know, I'm a long life resident of Village of Mamaroneck for over 45 years. I've been on the board for 4 years and looking to continue for another 2 years to carry out the people's wishes and their plans for what they expect Norm and I to continue to keep doing.
You certainly have a lot of enthusiasm, and you're attending all the events year after year, month after month, and you and the mayor really complement each other very well and represent our community really with the utmost excellence. Mayor.
Thank you. And further to that point, I would like to thank you for coming. You are a good luck charm. It's the third time. And I would also note, to carry on that point, we also work together with the town of Rye and the Village of Mamaroneck.
Correct.
And that's the whole key. The first time we ran on what was called the unification slate. I'm non-affiliated, Lou's Republican, and the other candidate was a Democrat. And we've carried that. And all our successes, quite honestly, even though we just had a majority 1 year, the next 3 years we were able to do a lot of things because we did work with the boards, even though it was a different makeup and a majority with Democrats, quite honestly. But as noted last night at the debate, I will open up with my comment as I love being mayor. This is the best village that I could possibly think of living in. I'm a third generation. My grandfather came here over 100 years ago, built the first apartment houses in Mamaroneck, founded the Hebrew Institute, which is now the Westchester Jewish Center. But part of the frustration last night and the format of these League of Women Voters, which is great, and it's a great format, is that when you open up with a minute and a half, it's very hard to discuss what your successes are and what's going on in 1.5 minutes for 4 years. You just can't do it. And there was one subject, which I believe is the only subject that our opponents are pushing for, which in essence is a non-issue in my estimation, is the question of Hampshire Country Club. It keeps coming up over and over again. Hampshire Country Club, on the history only, because we will not make any comments on what they claim they should be doing, is that they went into bankruptcy. It was then sought after by different people, and there were 2 different proposals that are out there and to the general public. Nothing has been proposed to the Village of Mamaroneck. One is to build one large building, and the other proposal they made is to create homes in the golf course. There were a lot of politicking going on back and forth. It turned out at one point, one group that was in favor of it went to the fire department. Then the second group that was against it went to the fire department. And we then realized that the Village of Mamaroneck was being put in jeopardy for financial reasons. Unfortunately, it's not what the Village of Mamaroneck does, it's how it does it in the past. And we ended up, as an example, with the Westchester Day School, cost us $4.5 million.
Correct.
Well, lucky it only cost us that, which adds to our debt. The Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club, again, it's not what we did as much as how we did it, and it's cost this village millions of dollars. Further to that, I noted to our village attorney my concern, and he sent the following to all members, whether they be elected officials, administration, or volunteers and boards, and I will quote in part. This is from the office of Charles Goldberger, village attorney. I must caution all village employees, as well as volunteer board members, that no comments should be made at this time with respect to any potential development plans for the Hampshire Country Club. No application has been filed with the village with respect to any rezoning or any other development plans for the property. Until such time as an application is filed, no comment should be made by any village personnel. Any such comments could jeopardize the orderly process of any land application and could possibly subject the village to liability. The Fire Council and many other boards will be involved in various phases of any land use application. Hence, any premature comments would be totally inappropriate. And the sad part is my opponent and Lou's opponent continue to make these comments. Now, Lou's opponent is not a member, but my opponent certainly is a member of a land use board, and I believe is in violation at best. He's going to have to recuse himself, whether it be on any other board, and particularly the Harbor Coast Social, the HCZM. And I just find this egregious that in essence, for a vote, you try and pander towards some type of support. Certainly not in the best interest of all the taxpayers in the Village of Mamaroneck, which includes the taxpayers in Orienta, because they pay for it along with us and everyone else.
The ironic thing about it was this. I believe this letter was dated May 28th, and all the village board members received one, as well as village employees and the board of trustees and the mayor. And your opponent, he's went on record. He made, I believe, 2 TV shows where he specifically said and that was after this letter was giving out.
And in a debate last night.
And in a debate again last night, that he's opposed to any development in Hampshire. And after you read the letter, he continued with a sarcastic attitude that he's against Hampshire. And the ironic thing about it, it's not the first time he's done something like that. Back in 2012, because he has a business in the village, as an architect, he was on the HEZM, and he was attending planning board and zoning board meetings and representing clients and being paid for it. And he was advised by legal counsel at that meeting from the land use boards, members of the land use boards, and the audience and the residents not to go up there and represent himself in front of the boards. It's an ethic violation. So I took it as my responsibility, as my duties as trustee, to notify the ethics committee, put a complaint in. They did a thorough investigation and a hearing, and they found Mr. Nuringer violated 2 charges. And the ironic thing about it, it was an anonymous vote. It was a 5-0 vote. And the ethics board is made up of 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and an independent. So it's just like he doesn't care. He has his own agenda, and he's going to do what he wants to do. And to me, I don't believe that person deserves to be mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck.
Well, listen, that was the most action-packed 5 minutes we've ever opened the show with. I think we've dumped it all on the table, but we have a lot more to discuss.
We have a lot more.
Absolutely. So the mayor, in addition to being the Village of Mamaroneck, the mayor, but he's also the people's mayor. And that's what I'm hearing on the street, and really that's what we see in this community. And so I want to just, because this is a hot topic here, and I think more so because this person is looking to run for the office of mayor, okay? Exactly. And if you are receiving direct direction from the attorney, the counsel for the Village of Mamaroneck, saying to stand down, don't do something because it's going to put the village in jeopardy, and you do it anyway. And this isn't something that just happened. We're talking about 5 months ago, someone's being told not to do something. Well, listen, we've been around a long time, and you know something? It almost seems like this person is going to do what they want to do anyway, regardless of what's best for the Village of Mamaroneck.
That's 100%.
And it sounds to me, and I'm sure it sounds the same to the residents of the Village of Mamaroneck, that is not what we need on that village board. Continue, Lou.
And let me just make one other point to put it in perspective. There have been comments alluded to and credited to Lou and myself, which are totally false. Lou and myself, in conjunction with this warning by the village attorney, have never made any comment or any position on any potential proposal that would come to the Board of Trustees. Neither has the other 3 members of the Board of Trustees.
Who are Democrats.
Right. And I would put this in perspective. As a poli-sci major and a history minor, I can tell you that my 2 favorite people in studying was Secretary Seward when he bought Alaska, and Teddy Roosevelt. One of the greatest things that ever happened in this country is when he created the national park system. I love open space, and I can tell you that there are only 2 people here that can specifically say in the town and the Village of Mamaroneck that put their money where their mouth was, and that's Valerie O'Keefe and myself when Hampshire Country Club is in bankrupt, and we offered $10.1 million to buy that property and keep it open. That's the only comment I will make. That's my philosophy. But my real philosophy and duty as the mayor and elected official, as anyone else, is to follow legal advice by counsel, and we will not discuss it as far as opinions concerned. And that's it.
Not to harp on it anymore, but last night at the debate, your opponent and my opponent also said they don't like the way the village is going with lawsuits.
Yeah, right.
And here he is making comments, advice of counsel, and in the letter it says not to say anything because of the liability that you're exposing yourself to. So they're talking out of both sides.
Since we're talking about legal issues, let's talk about, we had a great attorney working on a case for you, Kathy.
Yeah,
and
Kathy Valantis, right?
so I heard she made some great inroads for the Village of Mamaroneck.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We inherited, I would say, 4 or 5 major lawsuits that have been on for almost 10 years. And I can say that when we first ran, we ran with the idea of settling these lawsuits to protect the taxpayers of the Village of Mamaroneck, and quite honestly, the viability of the Village of Mamaroneck. The one case we're talking about happens to be with a home on Beach Avenue. There was a combination of different lawsuits, and I can tell you that it was to the point where there was a small dedicated group, for whatever reason, wanted, in essence, to have this person rip a house down, a beautiful $1 million house. Without going to the whole merits of the case, the bottom line is that the Village of Mamaroneck appealed, and it went to the appellate division, I believe, and the appellate division, in the most unusual circumstances, reversed themselves 100%. And that speaks a lot for our attorneys. And that also speaks to the fact that we do not need a full-time attorney. The first thing I did when we got in is I eliminated the full-time attorney and went to part-time attorney, and we saved $125,000 right off the bat. Since that point, there have been different boards that have a Democratic majority. They have not chosen to go back to full-time attorney either. It just demonstrates how out of contact and out of touch my opponents are with reality and how to run a village.
And by listening and participating in the debate last night, it was obvious that the two people that are running against us doesn't know the history of the village, because they were talking about how the attorney fees have escalated to a point where when they get in, that's the first thing that they want to handle. When Norm and I were in, we had a land use attorney who was charging the village $18,000 for land use stuff.
I remember.
Correct. At that time, we lost the majority of the board, and the majority of the board felt that change was good. So we went from $18,000 to the first year the bill was $425,000 for our land use attorney.
Yeah, that's really a poor decision that was made for almost on spite, that they wanted to make a change.
Correct.
Right.
Whether it was good or bad,
Right.
they made that change, and they
The
felt
comment
good
was
with that.
change is good.
Right.
Not change is expensive. Change was good.
Well, in that case, change was bad and change was expensive.
Yes.
But
Yes.
being mindful of change, one thing that we see now, which is important, and something that both Norm and Lou bring to the table year after year, is implementing best business practice alongside municipal government. And that governance, what needs to happen, and since we're talking about attorneys, they took a fixed expense that happened year over year, okay? You had a fixed expense, you had a salary, and you pretty much knew what your expense was going to be when you were budgeting.
Correct.
Now, they've taken that and they made it a variable expense. The only time that the village needs to pay that bill is when that attorney is working for the village. And thank you to Norm and Lou for doing that for the residents and the taxpayers in the village of Mamaroneck. Let's continue talking. Something that we've discussed time and time again is flood mitigation. I wish it was we could use a different type of terminology now, but it happens to be the most direct and really plain speak. But you've made incredible inroads in how the community has been treated, the awareness, and where we were years ago to where we are today. Let's talk about that.
First got in 2010, there was no program implemented in the village of silt removal. So the mayor and myself got together and we said, look, we want to go out there. So we contracted out. We did an RFP the first year and we did silt removal. We did on Barry Avenue. We continued the second year. We made it a budget item. And the third year we're doing silt removal. The amount that was removed and banked was phenomenal, because the effect of it was there was potential that if that wasn't done, we may have had 3 or 4 floods that we didn't have because we did it. And then we're in the process now. We're going out for an RFP to buy our own excavator, train our own employees for the village to do it, and go out and do our own dredging. The cost every year, I believe, Norm, was about $85,000 for dredging.
From 60 to 90,000.
Yeah, 60 to 90,000. We're hopefully to purchase some equipment for 140 to 150,000. In 2 years, it pays for itself in Taurus, and we can do it when we want to do it and when it has to be done.
It pays for itself.
Yes.
And that's talk about being progressive.
Yes.
We're not talking about status quo.
No.
And we're talking about being able to change with the times, but also the ecology and what's happening around us.
You hit the right expression, change with the times. When we first got in, the frustration was when we were going to, and I was going to the board meetings, and the people were frustrated. It started specifically with the real disaster in 2007 flood, when people were literally wiped out of their homes, and some people still to the point have not recovered to 100%. The then mayor and board kept taking a position that, oh, we can't do anything because the Army Corps of Engineers is working and we're going to affect the study and everything else. And while I go along with the philosophy of Jim Kaloran from Habitat of Humanity, and he said, if I can help my people, I'm going to go into the river and clean it. And that's exactly what I did, and along with Lou, when we got in. The first question I asked of the Army Corps of Engineers after we were sworn in is there anything the Village of Mamaroneck can do that would jeopardize the Army Corps of Engineers study? Or what are you going to do? And they said, absolutely not. Do whatever you want, in essence. We went ahead and we did this, and specifically to what Lou just said, I can tell you 4 specific times that we've prevented floods. In conjunction, the combination of removing the silt from the Mamaroneck and Sheldrake rivers, having the environmental programs yearly of a cleanup where we took literally tons out of the rivers and the beaches and so on, and working, quite honestly, with Steve Altieri, Nancy Selgeson's a supervisor in the town of Rye, to lower the reservoir. You can lower it 8 to 12 feet if we know ahead of time. In other words, it's preparation and is doing what you want to do locally. Don't depend on other people to do your own job, and that's what it is. And we're going to go ahead and continue to do it.
One other thing, helping the residents that were flooded and stuff like that, we brought a program to the board where we instituted a program for anybody who had flood-related damage. They still had to file a permit, but the fees were waived.
Right. Right.
You know, looking out for the best interest of the people that got damaged and got hurt in the floods. Never done before.
That's being responsive. And
Yes.
by giving the people, the residents, the property owners that opportunity to just file their paperwork, absolve them of their fees, you know, that shows that we have a community, the friendly village, right?
Right.
That's what they call it.
Yes.
That is the best.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to what you were talking about, how you worked with the town of Mamaroneck and tried to identify when you can lower the reservoir to help prevent flooding. And then you also talked about what you did when you went to go clean up the rivers. Now, that wasn't done by yourselves. You built
Correct.
a consensus. Now, here's another thing that the residents and the taxpayers need to know. We're not talking to a 5-0 slate board, okay? We're talking to members, leaders of that board that build consensus, okay?
Correct.
You're reaching across the aisle, the political aisle, but also you're reaching across the entire village. And you're building this consensus and this desire and the want for the residents to participate. Let's talk about those volunteers that came through.
The river cleanup here was the first thing. You know, we experienced it the first year that maybe there was about 75 or 80 people. The second year, one of the engineering firms that did work for the village, they brought a crew of 20 people. The tree company that removes the trees during the flood damage, they brought a crew of 20 people. One of the businesses, they brought machinery down, and they cleaned the harbor for us. It was like every year it just got exploded. It just kept getting more and more people where we were doing an 8-hour project. The last year, I think it took us 3.5 hours to get the project completed. We had so much, and we got so much more done.
Donated bags and
Yes, we had
bakes and leaves
community
and everything else.
service and involvement was phenomenal. It was unbelievable.
And that's important for everyone to understand, is that you can always lend a hand, whether it's a half an hour, a day, whatever you can give to give back to your village. Reach out to Norm, reach out to Lou. They're going to put you to work, and we're going to look to make the village better and better every year. Now, let's talk about maybe some changes in the village administration. What's happening there?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Actually, we've gone ahead and as reasonable and prudent people, any municipality that doesn't continue to grow will die from atrophy. The Village of Mamaroneck right now is fortunate enough to be #1 destination in Westchester County. As a couple of years ago, when we were noted as number 60 in the United States, #1 in New York State. I would note that we went ahead and we now have a new building department head. We hired a new village engineer, which was desperately needed for the last 10 years as far as I'm concerned. And even more important, a new planner. And with our new group coming in, it's just continuously addressing the needs of the growth and so on. We're on the process of looking at rezoning the industrial area. We just successfully completed a TOD study, transit-oriented development study. We're going to be looking at extending, in essence, the downtown business, where we will have residential, mixed-use residential and office space. That will increase the tax base. It will increase and keep what I think is the greatest asset we have, which is the diversity in the village of Mamaroneck. I would hate to live in a white bread community. I want to live where there's a lot of space.
The ironic thing is, too, is doing our duties as members of the board and looking out for the residents and the taxpayers. Our money that we were paying for outside consultants, which we didn't have a village engineer on board, was the fees were high. So we said, what can we do to do this? So we did an RFP that says, let's bring in a part-time engineer. So we did an interview with a part-time engineer. We get a call from this gentleman who's done work for the village before. He says, I want to come work for the village full-time. He says, well, we can't afford a full-timer. He came, his price was third less of what we were going to pay for 2.5 days. This is somebody that wanted to work in the village, who's going to grow up, his family's going to be here, and is doing a phenomenal job.
And he's a phenomenal engineer.
It's unbelievable.
So really, he's volunteering his time, but you're covering his expenses.
We don't want to say that.
He's covering his expenses.
Yeah, and he's taken on a lot more work than we anticipated him to do. We're saving even more money because we're not paying for those outside consultants anymore.
And I know, like I said before, we can't cover 4 years in a half hour, and time is flying by. So I just want to go over another thing as far as that's concerned. We also created a new parks department. Barry Castorella is head of the parks development, and I can tell you that the comments that we're getting on the condition of Harbor Island Park and all the other parks is absolutely phenomenal. People have told me they haven't seen a beach this clean in 30, 35 years. They're coming down. We bought a Rayovac to try and at least make some attempt to clean up the goose garbage. And it's just, it's as I noted before, we get support across the board. When I was luckily to be endorsed by the New York League of Conservation Voters and also the CSEA, which demonstrates that we do work with our employees. And they, in turn, dedicate back to us. It's mutual respect and working back and forth together. It's
just not to prolong that conversation, but when we talked about how you said the beaches are clean, you know,
right.
we were saying that Harbor Island the last couple of years has been getting used a lot. The weekends we had no coverage, so we turned around, and Norman and I, at the time when we got in 2010, we said to the Parks Department, you know, what can we do to get our beaches clean on the weekend? They says, well, you know, we'll take care of it on the weekend. We said, yeah, but you know, the overtime. No, let's work out agreement. We'll have an agreement in our contract, because it wasn't part of the contract, where they would have 2 gentlemen work on the weekends from Labor Day to Memorial Day, and then take 2 days off during the week. No cost to the village, and the beaches are clean as they ever been in the last 30 years.
So you're working with the existing staff.
Yes.
You're changing things up a bit. Mm-hmm. You're finding staff that really they want to change. And they want to do what's best both for the village, and you know what? And it works out well for them also.
Absolutely.
And then the ironic thing is that these employees here are residents of the village of Mamaroneck. So they want to do what's best for the village of Mamaroneck. And it gives us even more energy to step up and do even a little more.
Something else that changed that I heard was that you changed the garbage route too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Norman will talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We eliminated one garbage route. We went from 6 to 5. And at the same time, we eliminated a truck, which was $100,000 in itself. We continue to do it. At the same time, by doing this and creatively and working with the CSEA, we didn't have to fire anyone. We just shifted the labor around. That's good. Yeah. We only have a few minutes left, so I would like to note that a couple of quick things. The Village of Mamaroneck is also continuously, as in planning ahead, attacking our infrastructure. People can note when they drive by on the Post Road and Barry Avenue, on Tompkins Avenue, on the Boston Post Road. We're doing infrastructure changes. We are continuously looking for the environment with the sewer lines by slip lining and improving the lines, doing smoke testing. But the real kicker is the success here just keeps growing and growing. It's a catch-22. I would like to note on September 26th, we're having a grand opening at 115 Hoyt Avenue. For the Bullseye Glass Resource Center, which is a wonderful national company moving in from the West Coast, and they're going to open up into the village of Mamaroneck. And this is in an area where people in surrounding communities have empty stores, and they're not doing it. People are looking to come to the village of Mamaroneck. And the best of all are our volunteers. And I just want to name some real quick so we don't miss it. So Harbor, as an example, I can't get it all. Harbor Island Conservancy with John Ferris and Fred and Julia Longacre, You go down to Harbor Island, and aside from our own crew, you can see the new kiosk and a new entrance with the flowers on Orienta Avenue. You can see the new walkways, the signs, the new signs, unbelievable. And of course, we have Catherine and Jim Desmond and Sarah Evans, who came to us within working on a program they claimed for 10 years. Within 3 months, we opened up the Marine Environmental Education Center in Harbor Island, and it's so successful that it's just going bonkers on the whole thing. We can't wait for the following year.
I meant to tell you, they're looking to expand.
Oh, good. Okay. That's great.
There's some breaking news here today.
Yes, yeah, they're looking to expand.
And of course, there's the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And the most recent cultural event that's coming is a group called Our Time Theater, which I had them come for one of the mayor's presentations. And this is a phenomenal group that allows kids that stutter and adults, and they do it in a play setting. And they chose several different places. They chose the Village of Mamaroneck to come here. It's so rewarding, that we can facilitate and delegate and coordinate people coming to the Village of Mamaroneck. It's a great destination, and I'm proud that I can help be a part of it. It's a small part. It's not Lou and I.
No.
It's everyone working together. It's a true community. This is America, the Village of Mamaroneck.
That says it all. That says it all.
Well, you're right. It is America, and the Village of Mamaroneck truly is, I would say, the best cross section of the United States. There are a lot of communities that are they're still hurting. There's an overwhelming amount of poverty, and there really isn't much enthusiasm to get behind the local officials and to take pride in your community. But in the Village of Mamaroneck, that happens every day, and that really drives from the top down. And it's your positive enthusiasm, it's your energy that you bring to the Village of Mamaroneck that they drive off of.
One thing that we missed, and I'll get real quick, I know we're at time, was when we first got in office in 2010, when the businesses were turning over and stuff like that, we heard complaints and comments. It takes too long, months, years to get things built. So the mayor, on his own initiative, he has a committee put together. He has the planning board, the zoning board, our planner together, our engineer together. When somebody comes in and wants, before anything's officially submitted, they'll sit down at a round table, and the gentleman will say, this is what I'd like to do. And these people get together with their expertise and say, this is how you get it done. Things are taking 2 or 3 months now to get done.
I'd like to make a closing statement because I think they're going to shut us down. I read this last night, and I firmly believe this, that it brings a comment, a tribute to one of my favorite authors and commenters, Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain. And quote, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it." Okay, so I offer our record for your consideration that Lou and I deserve another term to continue our dedication to all the residents, the people that live here and visit, and keep the friendly village as it is. So, and again, Bill, I'd like to thank you very much. You're doing the same thing in the town of Rye. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and we actually look forward to probably in the next week or two even discussing with you consolidated services.
And I look forward to that too. And again, we're here with the Deputy Mayor from the Village of Mamaroneck, Lou Santoro, the Village of Mamaroneck Mayor, Norm Rosenblum. On behalf of them, I want to thank the community for watching this program. I want to remind everyone to vote for Norm Rosenblum and Lou Santoro on rows B, C, and E. They are endorsed by the Republican, the Independent, and the Conservative parties. And these are people with integrity. There you see, there's the ballot. These are people with integrity that you could depend on. And I also want to thank LMC-TV for their studio and this programming. I thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you.
Thank you.